Hi, good to see you.
Have a seat. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Wooden and cozy, but especially cozy this year. I'm very much enjoying sitting up here. Sanna, for anyone who missed your speech on the main stage yesterday, just give us a recap of the key takeaways.
I think I was talking yesterday about why CEOs and executive teams succeed. And I gave the 3 essentials: self-leadership, result orientation, and then making sure you train yourself and your people. And the 3 Fs: future, fun, and focus, 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 I think was the point.
Excellent. Mårten, you're originally from Finland, but actually based in Silicon Valley. Why is it important to you to come back to events like this, hear people like Sanna be in the audience?
Well, we have this saying in Silicon Valley that you don't have to be in Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley has to be in you. And when I moved there 21 years ago, it may not have been true, so you really had to go there. But you look at the most phenomenal startups now coming out of the Nordic countries, and they don't have to migrate or move their CEO to Silicon Valley like I did. I happen to love that area because people have a can-do mindset that's well beyond any other place on this planet. But we find it in Finland and the Nordic countries as well in certain pockets, like this one.
Interesting. So we've been talking all about economic strategy, some very quick-fire interviews getting into big topics around the EU strategy, competitiveness. But let's talk about individual businesses. What do you think makes a good strategy if you're starting or growing a business? I'll start with you, Sanna.
For me, it's very simple. It has to fit on one page. If you don't have the purpose, everything from the strategy, including values in one page, you don't have a strategy. You have some kind of blah, blah story. And you need to fit in on one strategy because of focus, but also because that's how you can communicate it. That's how you can make sure that people know what you're supposed to be. So if I start from that one.
How many values do you think a company should have? How many values do you think a company should have?
3?
3.
We can't remember 4. If we have 4 or 5, you forget the last one. 3 you can remember. But I think another thing is that same thing goes for the strategic choices. More than 6 is a no-go, and maybe 3 in the strategic choices is a bit too few. But you have to make a true choices, and you have to ask whether these strategic pillars actually is a choice between 2, alternatives, or is it just we want to be better? That's not a choice. Nobody wants to be worst. So it has to be a true strategic choice on the pillars which you want to build on it.
Same question to you, Mårten.
I think the best strategies are market-driven. You choose a market opportunity that you intentionally go after. So you are driven by something the market knowingly or unknowingly needs. The second thing is you must have a right to win, like some reason why you are the best or will be the best. That's number 2. And then thirdly, strategy is very much about deciding what you are not going to do. So I deal with a lot of startups, and they have far too many things in their strategies. And they don't know what to remove. And the act of strategic planning is to remove things, or if you are a little bit softer, you could say you sequence them and say, this thing we will do, but not yet. And that's the hard part of strategic planning.
You mentioned that over in Silicon Valley, there's this sort of go-getter, fast-paced mindset, really.
Right.
How do you think businesses there develop strategies differently to here in the Nordics?
Oh, they don't.
They don't have strategies.
Oh, in Silicon Valley, we just do. We raise a lot of money and we rush somewhere and we see what happens. And then many companies go bankrupt because there are so many of them, but some few will succeed.
So what do you think the Nordics can learn from that? It's a risk-based model.
The thing is that in Europe, 100 million is a lot of money, but in the US or Silicon Valley, 100 minutes is a lot of time. So here we waste time and we save on our money. But in Silicon Valley, they waste money and they save time. And that's the main difference between the two.
Sanna's nodding away. I mean, if I'm going to play devil's advocate, we've talked a lot about work-life balance and leadership and some of the things that are done very well here. But there's also a reputation in the Nordics of people having meetings about meetings about meetings.
But I think what Mårten is saying is fail faster. And it's fascinating, I live in Copenhagen, I live in Denmark, and it's fascinating to see the difference between Denmark and Finland. Finland, we plan, and then we go that plan. The Danes, we plan about, then we go. Oh shit, it wasn't right, let's move. So there is part of that one in not the Silicon Valley way, but it's at least to admit that even if it's a plan, if it doesn't work, for heaven's sake, don't go that direction more.
So agility.
So you have to have agility, and you have to have, sometimes I feel that fins and flexibility are two words that never meet. And we need to ensure that we get more of this understanding, this is not working, then let's go different direction. I think Silicon Valley is on that way, but on speed, on some kind of drugs the same way. Or if it doesn't work, then let's stop. But here we at least say, let's change the direction if it doesn't work.
Yeah, Mårten, you've also written a bit about this, I think, in Helsing and Sanna, about decision making, how to make decisions, how to improve decision making processes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, decision making is at the heart of building a business, and we're all different as decision makers. Like, I am actually a slow decision maker myself. So I have to hire people around me who are fast decision makers, and then I delegate to them to make sure that our company is fast enough. So I do think everybody must understand in what way they make decisions. But what we also need to know is that in this world of business and digital companies, nothing is irreversible. You can make nearly any decision and you can retract later. So that means that you can make the decision with a fractional information, with insufficient information. You can make it on a whim, you can make it based on instinct, because if it was wrong, you change it. And that's hard to learn for somebody who grew up being told by their parents that if you make a decision, you better stick to it, and quality goes before quantity. But in the digital world, quantity begets quality. So all these principles have changed.
On the flip side of that, if you do make a decision, it's a lot. If you do make a decision that you regret or something that goes wrong, it's a lot more public here. People can write about it on social media. They can say this company did X, Y, Z. Sanna, how do you think the communication strategies need to fit into all of this? If you decide to make a change in direction, how best to communicate that?
To be honest, I mean, this is one of the big things that's happening also in the digital world. We used to build the stories, and this is what we tell you. Today, you have to be transparent. You have to be authentic. If you go out and saying, we thought that would work, it didn't. We were smart enough to see that and change. So you turn the story of changing your direction to something which is positive, which it is in any way. So I think too many people are actually afraid of making decisions because, oh my God, one of the other, more yellow press in the afternoon, you're going to be in the first page. Yes, you should think about that one, but that should not be your decision maker or dealer. You have to say, okay, let's be transparent. Good stuff. We learned something. Let's do something smarter. Oh, you're so cute.
So, what qualities do you think are most valuable for leaders when pushing through new strategies? One might be admitting your mistakes. One might be delegating, like you said, for things that aren't quite right for you. What other qualities would you both highlight?
I think leaders must believe in their own agency, that they can influence the world, and they can always influence the world, and it's never their role to complain, never. And they have to live with that. And secondly, they have to believe in human beings and believe that other people have agency too, and together we can do something better. I think with those, you'll be fine. Everything else is secondary.
Sanna?
I think one of the biggest things is leaders have to stop being leaders and being human beings first. And that I mean authenticity. There's a lot of studies that says we don't hear what you say, we hear what your body language, what your everything else is saying. And too many leaders talk about, but it's very important, my words. No, your words don't actually matter. It's about, do you actually show that what you're talking is what you believe in? And I think that is a hugely important, and even more important in today's world when everything is digitalized and everything is visible. So you have to spend some time as a leader to understand, who am I? How do I talk about this one, and finding your own words? I think the second thing is much more difficult in the mid-leader positions. It's easier when you get to the top. You've done all your learnings, but even those, they have to do it. In the mid-leader positions, it's even more important you stop and saying, is this a project I truly believe in? Is this a project I really want to lead? How do I lead about it? The worst thing anybody wanting to be a leader is in the victimization. It's others' faults, because my parents were this, because my childhood was that. Guys, we have one life. Take responsibility of your own life. It's much more easier than you think if you just do it And that's the same thing for the leaders.
Thank you for that. We've had some questions coming in relation to what you said earlier about changing direction. So this one says, when do you know when to change direction and to change decisions? You were saying you have a hunch you're on a path, this isn't working, but at what point do you say this isn't working and we're not going to keep trying?
I think that you shouldn't, say, oh, the first Y business is not working. I'm a big believer in data. And again, the digital world gives you a lot of data. You can see if a product you're launching is successful or not, or if the project is going in the right direction. If you have a project which within the first 3 months has been delayed by 3 years, let's restart, there's something going wrong. But you have to be a data-oriented. And it helps if you, in the start of the project, has put some data points down on that one. And yes, don't drop it in the first time, but don't be an idiot and try 5th time if you failed already. So there is a certain point. What it is, it depends about the project, it depends about the cost. I think somebody said yesterday in the screen, or where it was, that the worst thing you can do also with your career is I hate my career and keep doing the same career. For heaven's sake, don't. So the sunk cost is the biggest enemy for you to stop or change the direction.
Mårten, you're nodding away. Any final comments from you?
It's a really hard one. There's advice saying the moment you fear that it's not right, just change it immediately. And there's advice saying in Finnish, läpi harmaan kiven, and just keep going and never give up. And those two pieces of advice are contradictory. If you are a leader of something, you may need a mentor or somebody you can have a confidential conversation with, because if you're running a project team, you can't go to them and say, hey, project team, do you think we are doomed? Because then you are doomed. So you have to keep believing in it until you don't, and you may need somebody else where you test your assumptions. Like Subway, the huge chain that produces sandwiches in the US, their first store was a failure, and he thought he should give up, and they said, no, I said in my strategy I'll have 500 outlets in 5 years. I can't shut this down. I have to open 2 more. And he did the complete illogical thing, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So it comes down to very deep instincts at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's what differentiates great CEOs from other CEOs.
Yeah, a bit of trial and error and
luck.
risk-taking
And luck.
and luck.
And luck. Good luck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been very lucky to have you here. Thank you very much. Please give it up for Sanna and Mårten.